She's not really. Name is in Hannah.
This is the stuff that Scotland Yard didn't get.
This is what they didn't take, yeah. Like, so each box has a number, and then, thank goodness. Oh, here's it. Oh, look, isn't this nice here? That's the one that I was meant to get. Brian was doing me a psychic cross. Look, can you see it?
See the swastika spinning? You see it coming alive? You see that spirit coming back? You see it coming back? You dig what I'm saying? In other words, it's coming back in the spirit of the youth. It's coming back from the battlefields. It's coming back. Peace on earth. Peace on earth. And the peace on earth goes beyond that line.
The process was saying that Christ and Satan had to reconcile, and that if Christ was about forgiveness, then he must forgive all enemies, including the fallen angels.
I usually don't show, but I'll do it for you, for Brian's sake, because Brian saw it when it was brand new. It's at least 30 years old, so it's faded slightly.
I can see it. But you have to look exactly where I tell you.
What's this?
Tell me. Do you believe in magic? Do you, Jacques? Do you?
In magic?
Passing themselves off as an artistic avant-garde movement was a cover to quite an extent. I mean, obviously they were wonderful practitioners at such a thing, but...
Cover for it.
A cover for their esoteric activities.
You have called the Death Factory, the studio where the TG sound developed, an alchemical musical laboratory. What was going on magically that created the TG sound?
When you say black magic, what are you talking about?
That our application of what we understood his theories to be with our music was in fact very close to his application with tape recording machines.
Is this machine recording? Is this machine recording?
William S. Burroughs deserves a big mention in the occult.
And he was involved with the IoT, the Illuminates of Thanatos.
The Illuminates of Thanatos is an international magical organization that focuses on practical group work in chaos magic.
He's one of the bigger influences of chaos magic.
Biographers tend to dismiss his interest in the occult as being like a fanciful sideline or, you know, an unfortunate episode in an otherwise genius life, when in reality...
He is reported to have gone through an initiation, that he was in the ritual as an actual participant. That when he died, he was buried with his membership ring.
Thanatos and Eros, sex and death, the positive and negative methods of attaining magical consciousness.
Now we'll speak to the world under the name of Hassan Saba.
I guess it's about time for our William Tell routine.
Burroughs was absolutely as much an occultist as he was a writer or anything else.
Essentially, the concept of their religion is promoting chaos, so it's chaos magic.
In fact, sometimes chaos is preferable because the unlikely can occur.
And that's why we were so fascinated with shamanism and the cut-ups and magic.
Chaos magic, which really kicked off in, I would say, the 60s, maybe, when you had people that took the Golden Dawn teachings and broke them down even more, made them even more simple, and just focused on changing reality, shaping reality.
Ways to change behavior. Guyson, Burroughs The beatniks.
It wasn't Burroughs, naked lunch.
He was living in 9 Rue Liqueur, which was the Beat Hotel.
The other person he was hanging out with was Brian Geisen.
Brion Geisen, a chaos sorcerer and artist.
A serious dabbler in the occult, he believed he was channeling the 10th century king of the assassins, Hassani Sabah.
They saw themselves as cultural assassins. In a sense, a sort of terrorism. And Burroughs himself put together these amazing essays about how to use sound as a weapon.
Still to this day believe all sounds in and of themselves are linked with metabolic functions and psychic functions.
Towers, open, fire.
And then the war begins.
Riot sound effects can produce an actual riot in a riot situation.
Am I that? I am that am I. I am that. I am that. Am that I am that. I am that. Am I?
And so on.
A lot of the work that he was doing with Geisen involves recording equipment or photography or film, filmmaking. It doesn't make it less of a ritual. I think those are all occult activities.
It was Geisen who discovered the idea of cutting up words and sentences and rearranging them as mind-scrambling magic spells, the cut-ups.
Who was an old friend and collaborator of his, and they worked on the cut-ups together.
Later he was interested in Dianetics.
Yes, I mean, he got into Scientology in about 1960, introduced by Brian Geisen.
Burroughs, his great friend, and they were co-inhabitants at that time at the Beat Hotel, and so he wrote Burroughs, what happened? And Burroughs wrote back, we must storm the citadels of enlightenment, the means are at hand.
I'm wondering if you would show me Brian Geisen's room here in the hotel.
And I'd met him and stayed in the hotel, living at the Beat Hotel in Paris, which was very, very cheap and rat infested.
So there's this construct of secret knowledge now.
Yeah, well, they were trying to blast it wide open at the Beat Hotel, let's give it to everybody, come one, come all, and, one could look at that as rather irresponsible in many ways, but, of course, they were working along the lines like there were only minutes to go, so this was justified. Anything was justified.
Geisen. And in fact, Brian Geisen is the guy who connected William to magic and alchemy and certain of the drug ideas and Moroccan music, everything. And that's how the whole thing began.
He came to London because he had an affair with this guy, Ian Somerville, who was a mathematician who was still studying at Cambridge.
Can you tell me a little bit about who Ian Somerville was?
Well, Ian Somerville was one of William's lovers, and he actually thought of the backwards tape.
They can constantly watch, if convenient, cinematograph films and listen to phonograph records, reversed.
And he was the technical connection that made these experiments feasible. Without him, they may never have happened.
And by then, I already knew Ian Somerville. So I moved into his sort of social circle.
I met him at a party where they had punch spiked with acid. I thought he was quite a dark presence, yeah.
And then in '67, I think it was, he rented a place on Duke Street, St. James.
A centre is what is needed. That's what the bookshop here in Indica was designed.
I was into quite a sort of heavy avant-garde trip. I'd sit with Burroughs in a basement. And I remember sitting around with Burroughs, to do little tapes and backward, crazy stuff.
They can constantly watch, if convenient, cinematograph films and listen to phonograph records, reversed.
So, way before John met Yoko and got avant-garde, I was like the avant-garde London bachelor with Miles, my pad in St. John's Wood.
This means that someone like Paul McCartney is on the scene and have supported it in both direct and indirect ways.
He was, people like Paul McCartney was very interested in him and put him on the cover of Sgt. Pepper, for instance.
When the Liverpool people came here to London, they brought with them the freedom, the money they've made. But the bookshop wasn't enough. A newspaper seemed to be the only way to get them all to meet.
And that was, in a way, what really brought us together, the same sort of vision of the possibilities of the human brain.
So a lot of the guys were interested in studying the way to process the mind, how to clear your mind from past confusion.
And that was the first thing, one of the first things I discovered about processing. It was actually the basic discovery of processing, that man was asleep. He is hypnotized. And he had to wake up. And then I went about trying to find out ways and means of how to make him do this, and that became processing.
It's black magic.
Oh, no. That's very funny.
What in magic we call the great work, the process of awakening.
Especially Damien Eccles' professed interest in the occult.
And will probably say we have the same concept of freedom as he does. Have all found a certain similarity in their aims.
Total freedom for everybody is our goal, That way, it will be a utopia.
The tough thing in life is ultimate freedom. Ultimate freedom is the big challenge. Now, I've got it, and I can tell you there's not many of us that have got ultimate freedom.
But it's big story saying about how they had orgies with the teenage fans and all this sort of thing. And then they write about it as if they're saints and as if everybody isn't doing it.
Yeah.
But they didn't call them groupies then, they called it something else. But if you couldn't get groupies, we'd have and everything, whatever was going. The Beatles tours were like satirical. We had that image, but man, our tours were like something else. If you could get on our tours, you were in, They were satirical, all right. Satirical, just think of satirical only with 4 musicians going through it. Always full of junk and
By 2012, the masses will be where we are today, and Paul should be Jesus by then.
We meant more to kids than Jesus did. I was just saying it as a fact.
In 1920, Aleister Crowley founded a commune in Sicily to practice the beliefs that he said would one day sweep away Christianity and free men from all restriction and repression.
People are frightened of freedom. They think freedom, there'll be excesses. Of course there would be excess to an extent, and then it would settle down.
What about you? What was your reaction to what he said and the reaction to what he said?
Well, what the context it was meant was the fact that Christianity is declining, and everybody knows about that. And that was the fact that was trying to be made.
I want none of your faint approval or faint dispraise. To hell with Christianity. I want blasphemy, murder, rape, revolution.
Satirical. And all forms of freedom will be the same as that. If people are allowed to be completely free, it will level out.
Anything bad or good, but strong.
So Miles anyway turned me on to a lot of that International Times, Evergreen, all those little things. Lots of very far out, and we used to do a lot of that.
When I started International Times with Hoppy, we got Burroughs to write for the 2nd issue, the 3rd, the 5th, the 18th. I mean, he was in, if Bill had something to say, he would just give it to us and we would run it. And then I did a lot of work with him over the years.
One of the staff members and a co-founder held a competition in the first issue of the newspaper. His name was Jan Iarkamo, apparently a Polish filmmaker. The same Jan Iarkamo who ran this ad in the next issue. The same Jan Iarkamo who engaged his friend Yoko Ono to perform an exhibition at his own Indica Gallery.
She was having a show at this gallery. So anyway, I finally got to this show, and then she came up and said she didn't know who I was.
She didn't really know about it. She knew who the Beatles were because
she had met him.
She met you.
Yeah. She knew of the Beatles.
She didn't really know about it. I don't know. But of course, I mean, if she knocked on your door, she knew you were a Beatle.
The same Ian Iarkomo that wrote Paperback Writer. The same Ian Iarkomo who contributed to the Church of the Final Judgment and their magazine, The Process.
Let him practice speaking backwards. Thus, for I am he. Let him say he and that out.
Listen. Ian Iarkomo. Ian Iarkomo. Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney.
It laughed for 1 second, but it took the whole evening to get it right.
Were the Beatles particularly important?
Well, they used to make a lot of the Beatles' White Album, okay, and
number 9, number 9, number 9. He repeats it, and at that point the kid said, "Now play that backwards." And I played it backwards, and man, I freaked. I went crazy because of the fact it says, "Turn me on, dead man." I just flipped out.
9, and yonderman, 9, and yonderman.
Helter Skelter. Get ready.
His influence on chaos magic can't be denied.
We've had people who hallucinated, we've had people who had visions, we've had girls say they had spontaneous orgasms, we've had people become violent for no apparent reason and not understand why. Music is very powerful, and it doesn't have to be a recognizable form. The power in and of itself of any sound is enough.
How important was music in the life?
well, it was pretty important. It was pretty important. It was sort of it was part of the brainwashing.
I may leave this world, and you may come with me, because if you're in the room locked in with this event, who knows what could happen.